Hey everybody, this is Cameron from Obnoxious and Anonymous. Today I am once again joined by James, Wooly, also Dirk. How's it going?
Excellent. How are you?
And believe it or not, we actually have a special guest with us today, and on the phone with us, actually. It's the man, the legend himself, James Marshall. How's it going, James?
Pretty good. How are you guys doing?
Doing great. At first, before we started this podcast, Dirk and I were trying to figure out how are we going to do this with two James on the podcast. So anyway, we really appreciate you taking the time to join us.
Well, you can for Twin Peaks' sake, you can call me Jay when you refer to.
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe James on our side.
That way, we'll know the difference, right?
Right. I believe James on our side said, "Well, why don't we ask him to call him Hurley?" So,
Yeah.
That's no one ever really addresses Jay as Hurley in the show, though, do they? Really? Not even Bobby or Mike.
No, I like Jay. Jay's good.
Get Hurley.
well, that's one thing. I wasn't planning on starting here, but let's just, since James brought it up here. You're in season 1. There was this whole thing with you and Bobby having this big feud, and then it just gets dropped at the beginning of season 2 after he puts the cocaine in your bike in the finale of season 1. It's like, did you ever when you were getting the scripts think to yourself, okay, how come the feud stopped, or were you just like, okay, well the story's just going this way, so I'll go with it?
Second one, I just had to go with it because that's what was happening. When you shoot, you got. First of all, I didn't have the right really in my mind at 22 years old to be walking in my first real, I was so fortunate. We all were with what had happened, I guess, even if you were already an established star, like some of the people were on that show, it was such a neat thing that happened and everything with it. So, but to have it be my first, large deal and everything, I just to walk up to the offices above with the writers and to announce that I'm unhappy with their storyline felt, a little bit precocious and stupid. So I did suggest it to them in passing at lunch, that kind of stuff. I would ask, do you guys think that it would be more, but and I'd ask, it would be better if Donna and James more stayed together and there was some, there's a lot going on here with Donna and James and the dramas that are going on, and we're leaving every one of them gone. And I don't get that. And is there something that we're going to return to that, or is there I don't understand. And he just said, that's the way we're doing it. And I didn't argue because it's like, what do you do? Because it's like we're shooting I know it's a week, but I think episode takes 10 days. It was like a week and 2 days or something, right? So they already got their script written. You're going to ask them to come up with something or to change their entire thing on the day. You know what I mean? When you're, so it's like, you're kind of screwed that way unless you can get in there and really pull some strings or something because you're established or something. I just didn't, you know what I mean? I didn't feel I had the right to, but I did have those feelings about most of that back then. And I just feel, I don't want to be, whatever. Because I honestly don't know all the details about what happened and everything behind, I just feel that when Mark and David weren't at the helm, that there was a lot of other people kind of took over. You know what I mean? And not that they were, all the writers were very good, and all the writers were not just very good, but some of them were super talented. But at that point, if David and Mark aren't involved, it's kind of like, it's a little bit like, how are they going to do this? Even if it was a Steven Spielberg, or even if it was like somebody who was incredible, you're talking about imitating David Lynch. You know what I mean? And you're talking about it just, even the best of the best couldn't do it. So that when they weren't around and they were trying to do stuff, I think you had other cast members and you had other people who were a little bit more established, or who were a little bit more, a little bit more, I don't know, gutsy to go in there than I was or something, and they kind of went in and tried to steer things a different way, and I think a lot of the writers went with it. But I don't know that for fact. I just don't understand really that whole second season either. So
when your character left to go to San Francisco and you were missing for the last 6 episodes, was that the writer's choice? Were you working on a film then and needing to leave? How did that come about?
Oh yeah, then when I left, that actually was that was the that was because I had a film and stuff. I was lucky enough to get the boxing movie and everything at the time, and because of Twin Peaks, and it was like that was written in because of that. But that's not why the storylines all changed. They could have had me, they could have had me still with Donna, but take it off. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or did something. You know what I mean? It didn't have to be that James was all of a sudden this piece of crap womanizer. You know what I mean? It was like, what the hell? Well, he's with Donna. What do you mean? Because it really made him look bad because he already was walking the line because his girlfriend, just his supposed love just died, and the night that she dies, he's with. But there was a beautiful explanation for that because, I think I've told that before, where I felt he was falling in love with Donna, and I mean they were falling in love with each other sort of from afar, and that was actually the authentic love going on, and the thing with Laura in James's mind, it was like chasing some kind of like bombshell, or you know what I mean, chasing some kind of an infatuation. You know what I mean? And it was like he could never grab her, and that was part of it because he has his own issue. It was his blind spot coming up and his dysfunction coming up in that relationship because of where he was from with his screwed up, abusive, neglectful, not their parents and all that stuff. So here he is sort of manifesting it like that, but really he was falling in love with Donna. And then when Donna and James needed to keep that innocence together and authenticity by staying together, or just making an authentic relationship, and it just went south, and all of a sudden they're not together and everything's going in this other direction and whatnot, and it just made my character look like sleazy, because it was already walking the line of, okay, he is the shithead then, because he was with Laura the night she dies, with her. Now he's with this lady now, so he's a mental case. He's just got problems,
Yeah,
but at the same time, it is a soap opera, so people do expect that. This is Dirk speaking, by the way. I know you can't see us. And then your contrasting character Bobby is like 10 times the sleazebag your character was. So you're really an angel compared to anybody else on the show.
But Bobby has his sleazebag is already that's him. My character, I don't mean even sleazebag. I just mean it becomes distasteful. It puts a bad taste in your mouth when somebody who is playing the innocent, who seems to be, it just makes him look that much like that becomes just greasy. It's like, oh, dude, what the fuck? You're like, Bobby, at least when he comes off like his thing, I thought Dana did a great job, and I thought he had like this arc to his character that was really cool because he honestly, and the way they all played it was like he was this, came out of the box as the like poisonous creatures show you who they are with their colors right off, so he came off right off like that. It's grosser when somebody comes off like, he's a liar. James became what looked like a liar, you know what I mean? And that's like he came off one way, and it's like, and then because then all that pitiful crying and all this other stuff really does look like self-pity is bullshit because look what he's doing, It just doesn't, it really, when I look at that, I have a hard time even looking at the second season. So, go ahead.
Were you, because I mean, in the movie, there's only that one shot of you giving a glance to Maura Kelly as Donna and she looking at you and then looking away, and then that's completely dropped. I mean, I know I've read the script. I know there weren't any scenes with you and Donna, and obviously, but I almost feel like, in a way, I know the movie is already crammed with stuff, but it's too bad that there wasn't a few more moments for you guys to play, for that in the Fire Walk with Me.
Yeah. Look, I with Fire Walk with Me, that was a whole different thing. David was almost coming from a different sort of, it was very cinematic and, and I think he went with a bunch of different ideas too. So it was almost not slice of life. It was more vignette-y. It was more like vignettes of the characters almost. You know what I mean?
Right.
Rather than it being such a solid, following story kind of thing. Even though it was following the story, it felt much more like vignette-like. And it wasn't, there were so many people, it wasn't, easy to, I agree though.
I think in our discussion of the Blu-ray and the deleted scenes, we've often mentioned the red rose that was filmed by the side of the road at the end, Sparkwood and 21, and James's bike pulls off, and then we see the camera pull down, and apparently the red rose was actually there, and that element, we've argued, would have made the film even more cinematic, perhaps, and added some beauty there in a way that the film sometimes, it did have that with the angels and things, but we kind of really wanted to see that red rose that was. We never even saw it though in the deleted scenes. It's like as if Lynch decided, we'll keep that. Maybe that will come into the new, the new Twin Peaks if they do make that, And I'm just saying, but I hope very much. Obviously they do, but just the red rose idea, it just seemed so suitable for the film, and it's surprising that it was cut out, especially with the blue rose popping up, and it's just
it's a trip.
Do you remember them filming the red rose? I mean, or on the road, or
I'm pretty sure.
Because the shot of you pulling away on the bike, if you look for a split second, the camera is panning down to that rose, but then it cuts.
Yeah. I don't think they made a big deal out of it or anything. I think it just, I do remember that.
There's kind of only so much they could get in there in 2 hours and 15 minutes, and
exactly with a cast back huge,
The Will Hayward scene was really good in the deleted scenes, and he was trying to make a red rose appear there, and he'd lost it there apparently on the road, but that scene between him and Laura was just a great scene. But
I remember in 1992 the magazine Film Threat came out, and they had a whole cover story about Fire Walk with Me, and reading it was like they said, oh well, it's too bad that almost every single person in the movie that shot for the film was cut out. So I remember even back then going, what's going on? It's only going to be the core cast, and so it became almost like Laura Palmer's A Nightmare on Elm Street or something.
Yeah, I know, right? That's a great way to put it. That's really perfect, actually.
Now, was it season 1 or season 2 that did you shoot scenes with a woman that played your mom, or was that a separate subplot?
Yeah, we shot the scene with my mom, and I think Bob Ingalls wrote it. And it was really cool. It was really good, well-written scene. That just shows you how good they were as writers. It was a really cool scene, I thought. And, and it fit within the realm and everything. It was just when they got taken out, it's just very difficult. It's just how the hell do you imitate something that you can't imitate? You know what I mean? Nobody could. So it's but no, it was a really cool scene, and it's more of where it really doled out exactly where James was coming from. You really got why he was always had this bummed out, sort of fucked up, too serious thing going on.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Wasn't James's mother supposed to be living in a kind of trailer or something? And so since Engels wrote, Fire Walk with Me, we get the trailer part there, and so that connects in with that. And there was a thought. No, I was just going to say it was classic David Lynch in that it was what I loved, because I remember walking up and doing the scene, which it was it's so weird to shoot the pilot up there, and then we shot the rest of it down here in Southern California, which is just completely the opposite sort of, feel, like you guys know,
right.
In North Coast and stuff. So, but, so I go walking onto the set and the sun's shining too bright and stuff. It's doesn't feel like that. Well, whatever. They made it really look like it somewhat, once you got closer to it. But it was just a classic thing of you walk up and there's the trailer. It really looked bad and it looked real. It looked like a really depressing ass fucking. There's a trailer and there's the thing and it's functional. You see that there's something underneath and you see that there's a lot of usage and there's a carpet coming out and they're trying to make do. And then there's this freaking Rolls Royce sitting right next to it that's just this intense silver shadow, brand new, so the juxtaposition, of this gluttonous vehicle, sitting there next to this just trailer, it just screamed at you, whore, it just said, there's, you know what I mean? Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I remember at the time hearing that scene that you shot was so well done that the writers were considering different places of where they could put it. They kept thinking, well, we can move it to this episode or this episode, and for some reason it kept getting bumped off until it never got aired.
Yeah, it sucks. I really liked it. I don't know. Again, I don't know how. I don't think I did great in the scene. I don't know, but I know she did, and it was easy to work off her and I don't remember the actress's name, but she was really good, and the writing was so freaking on. It was good. It was just really cool dialogue. That was just like. I want to say it's like a weird thing. It sounds like old. The way it comes off is like this gothic old English talk, but she doesn't have an English accent. Just like the way she was just so otherly than what in Twin Peaks yet fit perfect. Just the way she did it was just because she almost had class, and she almost had. But then there was this sort of dark gothic weird thing about her where it was like, oh. Fuck, dude. And she just laid into him, with words. Just was like, and very like weirdly, not sexual, but almost like with him, like came up and stroked his cheek and did all this stuff. And it was creepy as hell. And it was like, dude, and you see him just, he's getting upset, it's upsetting him. And he's walking up and he's like, not this again, and it's like, and now she's just being blatant about having the Johns just come right to her trailer. Like now she's just being obvious about it, and she's drunk, and it's like it was just, it was just a really really cool scene. She basically tells James everything that's already happening to him. She's telling him that harpies are going to rend his heart. She'll always be falling in love with somebody. Things like that. I don't want to give too much away just in case they ever do want to flash back on that scene or something, but it was just, it has to do with his heart getting rended and all this other stuff and just everything that was happening to him right there, then and there. So it was like horrendous. It really just, it was raw. It's like, and she did so good in it, Anyway, yeah.
Well, one thing that's interesting, because that has to do with your mom, but oftentimes the Evelyn Marsh subplot has come up on this podcast, and one of the things that we like to talk about is that for all the people who have complained about that subplot and having it feel kind of like the James Hurley spin-off hour, it actually it actually, believe it or not, is it's actually the basis for Lynch's film Lost Highway. If you think about it, there's a character on a motorcycle that's getting caught in the affairs of a married woman and her lover, and it's funny because James here on our podcast, he was saying that he believes your character mentions that your dad was a musician, and that's what Bill Pullman's character was in Lost Highway. So
on the West Coast.
Yeah,
it's the trip. Yeah, David tends to do that a lot. He seems to have he just seems to focus on a lot of the same sort of dynamics and scenarios a lot.
But did that trip you out? Did that trip you out when you saw it? Because it was like, oh my goodness, it's like James Hurley the movie.
Yeah, it's like one of those things that like I didn't think of it overtly like that. It was just he uses a lot of the same sort of, like, he gets into certain feelings and stuff, you know what I mean? So it's like I don't know, I didn't, a little bit. It was like, yeah, but not really. I don't know why I didn't associate. Maybe because I disassociated when. I'm sorry?
It's pretty surreal, Lost Highway, and I think that. So if they did James Hurley the movie, which would be amazing, I just think it would be so much more epic than Lost Highway, even somehow. So.
We actually did James Hurley the movie. He'd have to do something with his hair first, in my opinion.
But James, why don't you tell Mr. Marshall here your conspiracy about James as a motorcyclist in the town of Twin Peaks and the, burnt engine oil.
Well, I think for us, ideally, carrying on from the point you were making, quite seriously about meeting your own mother in the show. I think like the Evelyn plot, maybe there was a good intention behind it, especially when you can look at it as her being a prostitute, as you described, and things like that. It does seem to be implied that she is a prostitute, but it's sort of almost like in a Knots Landing type of way, that's just sort of a very thin undercurrent, and then you don't really know what's going on in this story. and it's just about kind of the high life and everything. The complete opposite of a trailer. But to get back to the roots of the James character, maybe it would have been nice if he just appeared in the penultimate episode and the last episode, and we would have seen him reconnected with, since we get Ronat Pulaski appearing there at the end saying, this oil is an opening to a gateway and all that kind of thing, and she remembers the night Laura died. I don't know. It just would have been really good if we'd got James back there in the end episode, and we were reminded of his, very strong connection to that whole storyline, and just somehow tied it all back in, like with the Black Lodge and things.
Wild.
It feels like Lynch was trying to do that in the last episode, but he clearly couldn't do that with you if you were working on Gladiator, etc. And
yeah,
it just seemed a shame, really. The last episode, as brilliant as it is in many ways, it's just, I don't know, I just would have liked to see some motorcycle action or something. In Firewalk with Me, we get the shots.
You're
of the
too
road.
funny.
Yeah, but we get those shots of the road with the, with the yellow lines that we don't have here in the UK, and it just gives off that kind of the right vibe or whatever you want to call it, and adds to something in Firewalk with Me. And the show could have had that. Just end it on some shots like that, or rather than Agent Cooper smashing his head into the mirror, we could have had Agent Cooper smashing his head into the mirror, then the shots of the road. James is coming back. Don't worry. To be continued.
Well,
but I know what you mean. Just the visual to me of motorcycles. Look at what all these shows are doing here. These shows are doing great here with all these, like Sons of Anarchy and blah blah blah. There's just something that's like, especially a thing like Twin Peaks, where it's not really centered around them, but it's such a nice touch to be able to. I would have loved to have seen on Twin Peaks like 3 or 4 of the bikes coming down, the way they would in formation, kind of like just looking neato, in a formation, just kind of wailing down the street and then pulling up, and just the Bookhouse Boys never got explored as much, and that just the fact that the sheriff was a Bookhouse Boy and all that, it just would have been neat to see. It would have been cool to see, whether it was the sheriff or somebody, I don't want to get all hokey, but I would have actually liked to have seen Michael Horse and James riding up.
You said horse.
You know what I mean?
That would have been good.
But that's so cool. But that would happen.
No, you're right.
They're all Bookhouse Boys. So it was, I'd love to tie that in. So you're also kind of wondering, wait, they all kind of know each other and they hang? Like, what else do they know? So they must have the lowdown on stuff. Like, they're almost like undercover because they're all still cops, and yet you got the kids that they're hanging out with, so that they can get the lowdown on everything. It just would feel cool to have them all riding together. I always thought that.
It's like when Cooper went to go rescue Audrey from One-Eyed Jacks. It would have been awesome if that had been a complete Bookhouse Boy operation, with everybody, James and everybody just doing it.
Yeah, but you can't do that with Harleys, though, because, loud pipes, in that case, do not save lives. But Jay, I'm so glad you bring that up, because, the whole motorcycle thing, because I'm a 3rd-generation Harley rider.
Wow.
Yeah, that is pretty awesome. I've got pictures of my grandpa, and his motorcycle gang, and this is back in the Netherlands, because I'm from the Netherlands. I was going to say,
that's overseas. Yeah, Harley's overseas. Yeah. That's been going on for years now, huh? That's generational with you too, huh? Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. Both my parents ride, and I ride too. I actually have a 2008 Heritage, and I wish I could have. Yeah. I wish I could have a 1975 Electra Glide, of course, because
you know what? He'll be breaking down everywhere. There's oil. It just comes loose. All the nuts and bolts come loose on those old engines, all those AMF engines. Yep. Because that's what the bike was on the show. It was an electric
exactly.
Glide, So, but that thing was a pain in the butt. It was scary a little, because everywhere we went, it was like, is it going to make it? Is it going to, and it barely would sometimes, and the new Evolution engines are just like incredible. So
yeah. No, I'm very happy with my Actually, I said 2008. I bought it in 2008. It's a 2004, and I'm very happy with it. It's really awesome. And it made me wonder: did you ride before the show? Did you have to learn? What's the background with you and Harleys?
I love Harleys and always have, and there's like funny stories and stuff like with that kind of thing in my past, but I never. There's a couple of little connections that I have to them. I won't go into or whatever. It's just funny. And other than that, I had nothing to do with them before the show. Like, I loved them. They were on my, like things to do kind of thing. But I always rode dirt. I was always like, loved dirt bikes and mini bikes and motocross. And I used to, love dirt bikes, but I never really rode street bikes. So I kind of learned on the show. So it was a little scary at first because I was like, this thing is big, and the big is, you have this illusion, especially I was 22 years old at the time, so you think, who hasn't been on a, big-ass bike? They really are big, So I got on the thing, and I'm like, you're thinking you got to muscle it at first, That's the first instinct I had. This is to be muscled because it's huge. So we got to muscle the bike around. And you got to be so gentle with them because it's like, okay, just steer a little. It's like the more big they are, the more gentle you are with everything. And it's like I kind of had to get that thing down before, I almost, it was like a little bit weird at first, but, got used to it. Yeah, totally fell in love with it. When I got back, I bought a Heritage as well.
Sweet.
I don't have it anymore, but I had bought a Heritage Softail. I got a really good deal on it, and everything was stock. It looked like a Christmas thing. It was like red. It was the red and tan mix. It had the, what I mean, the two-tone.
Yeah,
so
I love those.
It looked very Christmassy. So I brought it up to the bike guy who supplied the bikes for Twin Peaks. I actually put it in a Toyota pickup and drove it all the way back up to Washington, and had the guy from Twin Peaks who did the bike, who supplied the bikes for the show. He also, that's what he did for a living, was all bikes. So he redid the entire bike and customized it and made it look like it was a two-tone dark red and black it was just lowered and it was just really, really cool. It was a really neat bike. And no, I sold that a long time ago, but because I got freaked out. I was like, I had a couple of things almost happen, and I was like, I know if I keep this, I'm going to ride it again. And I should probably keep it because it's like a memento, but I just, so for safety reasons. So
you don't ride anymore at all?
No, not in LA. If I lived anywhere but LA, I would. But LA, it's too tempting to ride, and here, it's too freaky. It's way too freaky to ride on the freeways here. Even stuntmen will tell you that. Stuntmen laugh at people who ride on the street here. Stuntmen will be like, they don't ride on the street in LA, They're like, we don't street ride in LA. Are you nuts?
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I was there. I was in LA last week, and I was actually thinking two things. First was, it's too fucking hot to ride out here. And the second thing was, it'd be too fucking dangerous. It'd be too fucking dangerous.
It's so crazy.
Well, the good news is that one of our listeners, Jay, has mentioned that they would like to see you in this new season riding a Segway.
Yeah, I thought there was a Facebook thing where they stuck my head on a Segway rider.
That's because of us.
Oh, you guys did that?
No, we didn't do that. We just mentioned it on the podcast, and that kind of spurned people's imagination.
Oh, thank you so much. I want a poster of it, especially the guy they kicked with his legs and stuff. Unbelievable. Well, you know what? But James comes in on a Segway. That'd be awful. Imagine that. They do the return to Twin Peaks, and James is all messed up and everything, and he's like old, really old. Like comes up on it
or something.
Well, we can just
so like mental from too much alcohol.
Yeah.
He drank himself to death or something, and came back on. He's got a Segway and rolls up to the diner on a Segway.
And James, what would be the music for that?
My music.
Yeah.
It would have to be very. Yeah, it would be very serious, sexy music.
It would be a slowed down version of the Americana theme then, of course. The down, 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 down. As he just steps in for a cup of coffee.
And he steps off the Segway, and there's like a, yeah.
With the shades. With the shades.
Yeah.
James was always looking for women with bigger shades, and he got to Evelyn, and she had the biggest shades. That's why he liked her. So.
The video that you and the rest of the cast made for just recently, saying, without David Lynch, there's no Twin Peaks. That came out almost like a day after David Lynch's announcement that he wasn't going to come back. Had you guys been working on this video for like a week or so, or did you guys literally churn that out in 24 hours?
We turned it out in like 5 minutes because of the technology. I mean, everybody was talking. They said, get on your phone, turn your phone around and film yourself saying, you can't do this. So whatever. So yeah, no, we did it right away. And just, Machin just cut it all together herself and sent it out quickly. I think it was literally a couple of days. It was a few days.
Yeah, because
it was like 3 or 4 days.
We saw Al Strobel and we thought, is he in a cave? I mean, how did they find him?
Yeah, no, everybody, people are easy to find for the most part because of the social media stuff. So I think, and I don't know, but it was quick.
And what do you think of, obviously, the massive fan reaction to this? Everybody's so supportive of all you guys in the cast.
Oh, it's like, it's just cool, really cool. I just didn't, I didn't really, I don't know. It's just, the thing is, part of this is I'm kind of going, let them just negotiate and do their thing. And then part of me is going, no, we all got to kind of rally a little bit, because sometimes networks don't really realize what they have, so they got to be, and it's just, so yeah, no, it felt right to do, so.
Well, one of the things that I am amazed by is somebody like all of us, obviously, and you were in the show, but just going through that monumental time, and then almost it seemed like after Fire Walk With Me until, let's say, Twin Peaks hit Netflix, it almost seemed like nobody was even really talking about the show, and then all of a sudden, because it comes out on Netflix, this emergence of, oh, it wouldn't be great to bring it back. And I just remember being like 1997, 1998 and reading an article that says something like, you would never know Twin Peaks was ever on the air. And it's just like going, what are you talking about? I remember it being on the air. It was one of the greatest times of my life. It just
yeah, I don't know.
It just hit me at the right. No, I was just gonna say it just hit me at the right time. I was in high school, and it just, and so when the dates kept going from Thursdays to Saturdays back to Thursdays, it didn't bother me because I didn't have a driver's license then. So I was just like, whatever night it's on, I'll watch it. Okay.
Yeah, I hear you. That was a trippy time when it was like going back and forth like that. I remember that.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm really just excited to know what's going to happen either way. I mean, ever since Lynch's announcement, we're amazed that it's just gone almost quiet. I mean, yes, there's the fan reaction there that's constantly going on social media, but up until that announcement, there were like these hints that Lynch was, not sure about this. He said those quotes in Australia about the contracts. The difficulties with the contracts, and then all of a sudden it just stops. Are you guys kept in the loop? We're not asking for any information. We're just saying, are you guys kept in the loop at all? Or are you just waiting for an answer yourself?
Well, I don't know. I can't speak for everybody, but I definitely am not in any kind of loop. That's for sure. And I will bet you David's disciplined enough to where if he wants to keep something under his hat, it's going to stay there. And he may give little hints sometimes, but that's how he is. I mean, so I'm sure that, things are still moving ahead because we haven't heard otherwise. That's all I can say. The same thing as what you guys all know. It must be moving somewhere because we haven't heard that it's a definite no-go. We're still hearing we want to talk to him. We're still hearing, him saying things like, well, what was this thing that he said on Facebook? He said something rather like, stay positive or something, or not
Right.
that, but something like that. It was some little tidbit that said it's not all the way dead, that kind of thing, or
Right.
it alluded you to think that. So I don't know. All I'm doing is kind of going, it's interesting, but to answer your question, I don't know anything. I don't, all I know is just what you guys do.
We were just surprised that like we hadn't heard anything from Mark Frost or any, even on Twitter about it. He's kept dead quiet about this.
Yeah, I think, he definitely needs to. So I think that's the smartest move, Anything that anybody says right now causes stuff, because what's really going on is sort of a result, in my opinion, it's the result of the new technology. Right now, they're having negotiations like they do in Hollywood. Right. Sometimes this one particularly is taking a longer time and something's going weird. That's true, which they do sometimes. But we're not privy to all that stuff normally. Back in the day, I mean. Now it's normal. Because back in the day, you wouldn't know that they're having anything. Now, it's like somebody gets a call, they can get right online and go, hey, guess what?
Yeah, and that
it turns into a freaking, it's like you don't really expect that, You don't think that way unless you're a kid from nowadays, If you're a kid today, you might expect that and get that. But me from the old school and like even David, I'm sure a lot of people like realizing that, man, I should just, you really doubly need to keep quiet now because it'll just go right up online,
A few months ago, I talked with Catherine Colson, and we were talking about the differences in technology today versus yesterday. And back then you guys would get scripts, right? The loose lip sync ships, and you couldn't Xerox it. But now it's like you guys almost have to shoot this show so secretly, otherwise you're going to have 2,500 people there with their cell phones taking pictures of you guys on locations.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's
it's such a trip. It's going to be like there's going to be a perimeter probably for you're not allowed to go near this and that probably because of that. Yeah, and things like I'm sure you won't see any scripts. The actors won't see scripts. I'm sure they're going to dole out pages. I'm sure of it because what else would you? You know what I mean? You got to keep it secret. So. It's good. You're right. They're going to be doubly secretive now. So, and they should be. I mean, you're right. That's what the set would be like if they shoot it. It would be like that. They would close it down.
Because when you guys were shooting Fire Walk with Me, I mean, people were still, having to take their films that they shot with their camera, to the photo mat and get it processed. Now it's like it would be all over Twitter and Facebook within seconds of you pulling up to Laura's house or something like that. So it's. In a way, it's. I mean, social media is a wonderful thing, but also I hate getting on Facebook and seeing spoilers for Game of Thrones when I haven't even seen the episode yet. When the East Coast is seeing it,
Well, and with Twin Peaks for us, with Twin Peaks for us, that would be especially horrible if, let's say, season 3 airs tomorrow. We have to see it tomorrow because if we wait a day or even an hour, we couldn't possibly open up a single browser because all of our friends on Facebook, or at least on my Facebook, 70% of them were Twin Peaks people, and a lot of them are not going to be respectful. They're going to just talk about it, and it's going to be so hard to stay away from it. Whereas when it originally aired, all three of us are original viewers. When it actually aired, you had to wait a whole week for the new show to come on. And it was really the thing to talk about, and it really became a social event, not Facebook social, real social. You had to actually meet with people and talk to them about it. It was fantastic.
No, yeah, that's the weird thing now is you can't even. It's not even happening. It's so weird to think that. Like, yeah,
it is weird. It is weird. It's very weird, and it killed TV a little bit, despite the fact that production, technologically speaking, has improved so much, and the quality of the shows have just really, gone up a lot. That part of it has just ruined a lot or killed a big part of the experience, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Well, you know what? It's all growing because, it's all growth. Because maybe yeah, we reminisce for those times, but it's pretty cool also that you can now, instead of talking to 4 people, you can talk to 6 zillion people, you know? And it's like, so there is the cool side of it too, you know? I mean,
absolutely.
You guys have a really cool, honestly, a really cool show. You guys do a like cool format. You guys, you know, and that's because of this, you know, that's because of all this. So, you know what I mean? It's pretty cool. I don't know. It's freeing. As much as it's restricting in other ways, it's very freeing.
Well, the funny thing is, I mean, we would never be able to get in touch with you, and I never would have met James or Dirk at all because we all live in different parts of the globe, but we met on here. So in a way, it's absolutely fantastic. You have to understand that Twin Peaks is my first show that I ever like fell in love with. It hit me right at the, like I said, right at the right time, and so the idea of it possibly coming back, and when it comes back, I don't want to have to compete with the world. You know what I mean?
I know. Yeah, you just gotta keep your eyes closed because they're going to be spoiling it all over the place. Right. You know, like you said, the second the East Coast sees it, then you know it's going to be all over. And you know, the West Coast is going to. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say that's why I kind of like the Netflix model where they just drop the show in one day, the whole show. You know, so you can just take it at, you know, as your own pace.
Yeah, I think that's cool too. That's a whole other way that's going down. Like, my son hardly watches TV, really. You know, I mean, he watches his media stuff. Like, if he wants a movie, he downloads it. If he wants to watch a show, they download it. Everything is like, it's a trip. It's really a trip. You know how it's shifting that way. So, and it's comfortable too. You can watch whenever you want. I mean, the only thing is, God forbid, you know, I don't want to sound all conspiracy theory crap, but God forbid something happens to the you know, energy system and all this stuff is down, you're not going to have anything, you know, it's going to be like, what's a book? You know?
What's a book?
I mean, the thing that I find amazing, it's kind of interesting because the instant gratification of hearing about a book or hearing about a movie and then being able to just find it within seconds and be able to play it is fantastic. It's amazing. But I miss going to video stores for the hunt. You know, hey, what was that?
Oh, totally.
That Italian movie that people mentioned? I had to go to like 5 or 6 mom and pop stores to find it. And when I did find it, it was that much more special, you know?
But not just
totally.
The hunt,
and it was an event, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
And not just the hunt, also the exploration. I mean, same with records. That's one thing I really liked about record stores with the old large LPs. Just browsing through them, there's something magical about that. And I know I sound archaic and old now, and I hate myself for doing this. But at the same time, I love that, and I do miss that.
You can do that again now, Dirk.
Yeah, you find other stuff. Like on the search, you end up you go to the mom and pop stores for the old Italian movie, and on the way you end up having a conversation with, have you ever seen this movie? And then they turn you on to the other stuff, and it's like, oh, what is that? Yeah, that is cool, whatever, and you don't get that because everything is just right there. So it's like there's this whole other thing that you miss. It's like I was talking to somebody the other day about this. It's like the technology has raised or it has maximized people's intelligence potential. Like it's made a lot of the new kids, like their potential to be or to manifest their intelligence is super high. Like little kids getting on the computer now and their brains work a little quicker because the computer has taught them that you can think quicker by doing this and that. And little children are becoming, you know, if they were brilliant a little bit, they're really like they're manifesting it. And at the same time, it's making everybody partially emotionally and socially retarded. And it's making everybody a little stupid and dumb with other stuff where it's just like, it's the funniest thing, you know. So,
now,
but yeah.
But speaking of children, a lot of people may not know that you actually had a hand in writing children's books, right?
Oh no, not. Yeah, I did a long time ago. I did when my wife, when we had our baby, my wife really like wanted me to do a baby book for, you know, our son and stuff, and she just kind of, you know, convinced me to do it. So I did it for her and stuff basically, and I only did one. But no, there's another. It got all caught up because he passed away a few years ago, but there was a very famous, one of the most famous children's book writers named James Marshall. So yeah, it got mixed up with that, and it turned into a thing just because I got announced a long time ago for writing the baby book when my son was born. So
the way you phrased that, it sounded like somebody else passed away a little closer to you. That's so it's the other author with your name that passed away, right? That's what you said.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
I thought for a second you were saying that your son had passed away since, and
No. Oh Lord.
Good.
But
Good.
yeah, no. So no, the guy, the writer, the author.
Yeah.
And
So I have a question for you on Gladiator, which is one of my favorite feature films with you, actually. Yeah, you actually already alluded to the fact that you got that gig from Twin Peaks. That was a sort of a natural evolution there. But oh my God, I love that movie because it doesn't really follow the stereotypical, sports kid defeating the bullies type story. It has a little bit of a different structure, and I appreciate it for that, for what it's trying to do there. And then, my God, Cuba Gooding Jr. and one of my favorite actors, Brian Dennehy.
Mm-hmm. He was at my trial too.
Yeah, I read that on Wikipedia, that he was. So that must have been fantastic.
Yeah, for me, that movie, I think for Cuba as well, he is mentioned. I haven't really seen Cuba in a long time, but when I saw him a few years ago, one of the people close to him mentioned that Gladiator was, out of all the movies he even did afterwards and everything, Gladiator was his sort of pivotal, sort of, a movie that's momentous to him, almost like the way you would remember. It was just very special to him, and it's weird because it was to me too. It was not, and I certainly wasn't, freaking amazing actor dude in it, whatever. And it certainly isn't a genius, brilliant movie that way, and all that. But just to go, like, it was, like you said, it was well structured in that it didn't follow the usual. It actually, the reason it was felt like that, it was written by Lyle Kessler, who wrote Orphans, and he wrote Gladiator, but it wasn't called Gladiator at first. That got called that by the studios. It was originally called Gladiator. Originally was more of a friendship movie. It was more of a movie about friends and stuff, and they really pumped up who do end up boxing and having to save their lives from this boxing guy who was really mean. And they really pumped up the boxing. They made the boxing higher than the friendships, and they all that blah blah blah. In other words, they commercialized it. But originally, Lyle Kessler was like a really good playwright who wrote Orphans, which is like taught in a lot of the acting classes. It's just a very,
they made a movie of it with Albert Finney, and Matthew Modine.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, and and Saint of Fort Washington, I think he also wrote, but I'm not sure. And he just was a very relationship-oriented. So that's where the movie feels like that, and it has this kind of like, friendship thing, but it really got highly glossed and commercialized and all that. But yeah, for me, doing that movie was just going right from Twin Peaks, hearing that the studio's interested in you, for this movie. It just blew my mind. And then, so I started training for it immediately, like even before I knew I all the way had it, when they would just said, we are pretty sure we want, I was just like training for it. Okay, just focus and go, and because when I walked into the room, I didn't want to look like, I wanted them to see what they, like a boxer or something. So I started training right away. And then when they gave the go, I started training with their people. So I originally trained for a few months with like a whole different boxing trainers, all different boxing setup. And then they put me with their trainers who were really, really incredible. And we trained for months and months and months before the movie. So we all had this bond, sort of, and we all were in pretty neat shape, probably the best shape of our life, because it was like we had a Mr. Olympia stretching us and weight training us. And then we had Benny the Jet Urquidez, who is granddaddy of kickboxing, training us and for boxing. And it was such a gift. And to be able to go do the movie, in Chicago when it's cold, it was just I have all my memories of it are just so cool. Very pivotal point in my life, it just felt like. And it was so wonderful to be able to be in such good shape and to be in really top shape because you're training every day and a hard ass schedule, but to be able to have that feeling inside where you're not dreading getting up. You're just getting up going, yeah, let's go. Where are we training this morning? You get there and all the guys are there. You train together. You get up. What scenes are we doing? It's very exciting. It had this huge movement to it, that movie. And you can see why people would like making action movies. But there was something really special about that movie, even though it was a small, it wasn't like this huge, blockbuster thing, So I don't know. It was a neat.
No, but it
thing to
felt a
work on.
lot
It
more
really was.
honest. It felt a lot more honest than one of those giant blockbuster action movies. It really felt more like somebody's genuine child, if you will, creatively.
Yeah, exactly.
That is,
Mm-hmm.
and like I said, I love it for the fact that it doesn't follow, a very contrived or well-known plot structure. And it also touches on some racial things in ways that I think are just, it's some problems that we've seen before, issues that we've seen before, but it deals with it in a different way that actually allows you to identify with it more. And it's not disrespectful necessarily of anybody in it in that way. And I just absolutely respect it for that. And I think it's quite an achievement, and I think it's absolutely underrated. So people watching this, if you haven't seen it, you should really watch it. And just a fact check real quick for you that yes, he did write The Saint of Fort Washington also. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Thanks. Yeah. So it was the type of thing that I was proud of too, because when they screened the movie and they did some test screenings and stuff, and I snuck in one of them, and it was just neat to see everybody across the board, like from every color, every race, everybody. Because to be honest with you, the movie could have kind of bordered on a Great White Hype, kind of like that's why they made the Great White Hype, I think, as a joke, as kind of a send up of, obviously the white boxing movie and stuff, whatever. But this had such a different thing going on that once you see them, it looks like that at first, but once you see the movie, you're like, oh no, it's not, it's not that at all. I get my ass kicked. It's not, but the audience, to watch the audience root for my character, like they're straight across the board from every race, everybody from, because I kind of thought when I got up, that it was going to, if we didn't catch everybody, you know what I mean? It was going to be like, oh yeah, that freaking, that skinny little white boy is going to get up and really do that, because they had my character. It was a little cartoon here and there, they had my character going up against the giants and stuff. And, so it was like, I thought because of that, they were going to go like, I ain't buying it. Come on, man. But they didn't, man. The way everything went and everybody got up on the, it was like, God damn, it was really behind and rooting for you and stuff. I was like, this is cool. They really dialed it in good.
Yeah. No, I agree, and I liked it that the character doesn't even want to do this initially, and so it doesn't feel at all like for example, the Karate Kid, that type of movie, that kind of structure, and. Yeah, I liked it for that. Anyway, I think other James has some stuff to ask, as I feel like I'm hogging your time right now. So, Wooly, go ahead.
Jay, I will say your points about the internet, I really agree with, and I can speak from experience, the dangers of, the internet and it kind of opening up before me. The ability to just message anybody and spill my feelings. It's not always a good thing, but I think the perils as well as the beauty of the internet. It enabled us to have a page like Bring Back Twin Peaks, which at first I was like, what? Somebody's made a page like that, but I just think that the whole furore recently over Lynch saying he's leaving Twin Peaks, for instance, it seems to have, and we've discussed this a bit already, really, we actually believe that Twin Peaks has now reached this literal peak level that it hasn't for 25 years now in the public consciousness. Or when you go on Twitter and you see sort of 17-year-olds tweeting about, I've just discovered Twin Peaks, blah, blah, blah. And there's so much support for it and people saying, save Twin Peaks. And it just seems incredible, the kind of worldwide support we have for it. And
I know.
I don't know.
It's really cool.
It genuinely does seem like the actual level of interest in it as a show now is greater almost than it was when Falling was in the kind of pop charts here. We had it in the top 10, and which is kind of unimaginable now that song would be. But you know what I mean? And it's almost impossible for me to translate or take that culture, that zeitgeist we had back then in the early 90s. And in the UK, Twin Peaks was treated as being this really, a show to really seriously consider, as a piece of art, as you've described it in the book Reflections on Twin Peaks by Brad Dukes. But it's kind of almost impossible. It is.
Oh, James froze.
Uh-oh.
He froze.
Uh,
Oh yeah, he froze.
Well, Jay, go ahead.
I can go on what he kind of said. Basically, in my mind, I mean, Paul McCartney is doing great now. Like, all these people are going out there, and the Beatles were a zillion years ago, and now he can go fill an arena or something. You know what I mean? It's kind of like you don't realize what you got when you got it. So when Twin Peaks came out, it was huge, and they went, oh yeah, and then it went. But once time's gone by and you realize what you had, and you go, wow, could we? Yeah, it's going to have a reverberation to it in the same way a Dallas would. When they were like, oh, put it up, to me, much more. But when Dallas got put back on, it was like, oh, wow, and there's an uproar, but it would be more like, Led Zeppelin getting back together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's kind of what it's like. It's like, oh, you have to go see it, and tickets are through the roof. You know what I mean? So, they were huge in their time, but now it's, and that's what I think the buildup is.
And also, it's like, just like with Kyle MacLachlan, I mean, this was, an actor that, he had been known before Twin Peaks, but here he was, huge. Twin Peaks made him superstar. And, when he went to do The Doors and a few other movies, he was reluctant to come back and do Fire Walk with Me. But now it's, even though he's had continued success on other shows, now he, given the space of time, now he wants to come back, it's kind of cool to see that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like the 25-year thing too. I think that's cool.
Yeah. And that's the thing that
totally.
I think that's, in a way, the only thing that's going to bum me out if the
you're saying what I
if the
like,
new
if
the new
you
season
gotta make it so that the 25.
Yeah, because even if it gets bumped to 2017, there's a part of me going, oh, because it fits in so perfectly. With
my obsessive compulsive thing is kicking in hard with that.
Yes.
You gotta do it. No, it's even though you're saying it 25 years later, it's not. It's a year later. It's a year too late. What are you doing? That's why they got to get this shit done so that the compulsive people don't have a freak out.
Exactly.
Now, I'm curious, just real quick, because your character is on the show almost dealt with the most love interests, if you take the show and the movie and stuff, and what's interesting is you had to relate to Cheryl Lee as two different characters. It's interesting that your chemistry with Cheryl Lee as Laura is so different than her as Maddie. And, obviously I know acting comes into it and everything, but it's amazing how chemistry with a different person or the same person playing a different character completely gives you a new aspect to the character you're playing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because there was no threat there. It was easy to play because there was Laura would be terrifying. I mean, heart-wise, to be around. You're going to get your heart right. What else is she going to say that's going to rip my heart out now? Like, what else is she? You know what I mean?
Right.
You're going to tell me how many guys did you do last night when I thought you were, wait, you're not a princess and stuff? Oh.
Well, there's that shot. There's that shot in Fire Walk with Me that it seems to almost hit. I think it hits guys on a huge level. Is that there's the shot of you and her in the woods, and it's your face, and you're trying to be strong, but you look heartbroken. And on the right side of the screen is just her hand flipping you off. And in a way, I think almost every guy not has been in that moment, but has felt like that the person that they're in love with is just completely trying to push them away and say the most hurtful things. And you're trying to be like, I'm going to be strong and I'm going to take it. But, it's interesting that there almost seems to be a part of you that's almost wanting to stay there just to prove to yourself that you won't walk away from a challenge.
Yeah. Yeah, and where you're also, it is also not to get all psychological, psychobabble crap, but when you have And I honestly don't like, whatever. I don't put everything into that. But I think he's repeating. I think it's a thing, and especially it's a dynamic between the two sexes. Is that he's coming in as a hero, and it's the classic. A hero, oddly enough, is a victim, because a hero is going to get his ass kicked, and because he's coming in to be the hero. That's only within, I'm not saying in life to be a hero like a fireman, but to come in to save her, to help her save herself, and to do all this BS and to be the fixer, he's going to be he's going to be victimized. He's the nice guy. And so he's saying, no, why, and it's hard. It's also poetic because it's like somebody looking at the world with the world breaking his heart. Like you're watching somebody's innocence die or whatever, because he's like, you can't, what do you mean? You know what I mean? No. And then, to do something this cold is to like be like, fuck you, bitch, while somebody's that vulnerable and stuff, further scars the situation. So maybe you're watching Laura get raped, a lot. And in a sense, maybe you're watching, Laura rape somebody, and that's how that was done, So in a way, you're watching him get really skewered. So it's like, and at the same time, he's patheticized, he's freaking castrated, he's just, and then it turns into, and that's where you see where that happens, where you could see when I almost said Laura. We did that on the set a lot. But anyway, where you see Donna, and he falls right into Donna's arms, because Donna is like, she comes with no filter. Her heart's right in her face. She's there with him in the same frequency. So it's like, that's where you can understand where he just got pummeled by this girl, you know what I mean? And then he sees Donna, and it's just like, he falls into an angel's arms, basically. So,
and in the way, I was just going to say, in the way that Laura feels kind of pity for you, it's almost like later on in the series, you have that same kind of pity for like Harold Smith, because honestly, your character should come in and pummel that guy, but you're just kind of like, what a pathetic guy. You can't even leave the house. And you just, you have a conversation with Donna right out in the street, right outside his house, and not even care, because he won't come out, and you see him as sort of like a baby that won't come out after you, so.
Yeah. And there's that, but to get back to your initial question about the two characters that Cheryl Lee played, is that with Laura Palmer, that was there. That was always underneath. So it was like dealing with something that was dangerous and that had a blade there. And dealing with Maddie there was none of that there. When she looked at you through her funny little glasses and she was smiling, you just wanted to grab her and hold her and make sure everything was okay with her and just go, there you go. How are you? What do you want to do today? And everything was a smile. There was nothing there that was going to come up and out at me. With Laura Palmer, it was like, Jesus Christ, dude. Just full blown, full blown. You had, every aspect of every, because she was so, look what was happening to her, It was like when people like who have been through that kind of abuse are going to abuse, So she was turning around and abusing the hell out of people, herself, everybody around her. So when Maddie was around, she was, is the non-toxic version. So you would change my character and of course he'd be relaxed. So.
And of course there's that moment where your heart just literally, you can see it on screen that your heart stops when, in the first season, when you go to the gazebo and Maddie's there wearing Laura's wig, and you literally stop and look almost horrified that Laura's back.
Get the vest. Get a bulletproof vest.
Yeah, and I remember at the time, obviously this didn't happen, but I remember during season 1 there was a lot of speculation that perhaps Laura had killed Maddie and taken over her spot to do a do-over in life, So.
Yeah. That would have been way convoluted. But
yeah, of course.
Even though it's feasible,
Well, it's just
it's interesting that you what you mentioned, the non-toxic version. It made me wonder: is a toxic-free or toxin-free relationship with James Hurley possible?
No, not unless he got. Yeah, he is older. He could theoretically. Yeah, he's gonna. I have no idea what's going on with nothing at all. as far as the writing, obviously, haven't seen anything. So I couldn't speak to anything with my character or anybody's characters on what happened or what they're going through or what, you know, and through all these years or whatever. But for me, just looking at it, I would see it's one of a couple of different ways. He's either screwed up or he's either like, and still toxic and still kind of like bringing shitty things to himself, you know, and still fucked up and having drama. Or he's like become one of these people who's just on his Segway and pulls up and he's really cool and just says, "Hi, you guys, how are you?" And he goes to his job. You know,
my theory is that it is not a reflection on you at all. It's purely the character, is that he's gone off his bike to San Francisco to acknowledge that he's gay, and all his relationships are toxic because he is gay, and now he's gotten the time to, you know, accept that.
Can't do it.
Can't do it. Jay is totally silent.
No, I'm trying to figure out like how once you get that back and going. I'm seeing the scene in Blue Velvet. I probably have makeup on, and you'd all of a sudden have James. What's the actor's name?
Dean
Shit,
Stockwell?
I can't remember.
Dean Stockwell.
Chihuahua. Say it again.
Dean Stockwell.
Dean Stockwell. And I come in like Dean Stockwell, come off the bike. You know what I mean? That could happen.
Yes.
Fuck, that'd be awesome, actually.
Yes.
You never
yes.
know. I mean,
you heard it
you know,
here,
and
folks.
he's like, yeah, completely like, you know, completely in a whole different realm. Yeah.
Dirk,
that would be, you know, that would make sense too in some respects.
In some ways, if you think about it, you know, he's so toxic with all these women. There you go.
That's
I don't know.
And of all places that he can take his Harley to, right? He chooses San Francisco. I mean, come on.
Now Dirk can say that because he's gay.
I am gay. Yes.
It's just because of the film. It's because of the film Vertigo, and that's got nothing gay in that film, Dirk. So.
We'll have another discussion about that, and I'll show you how gay Vertigo
to do with
is.
Madeline.
I mean, the Coy Tower alone. That is one giant gay phallus. But anyway,
well,
we're talking about.
Let's talk about.
How do you know that's not to turn women on, though?
Well, I suppose it can turn both on.
Dirk,
absolutely.
Dirk, are you saying you see a subliminal message when James is sitting there and he breaks the pencil?
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
No.
Totally.
Now, how does the pencil breaking make? How is that the homosexual part?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
We're just having fun. James, what did you want to say?
Well, I wanted to go into the San Francisco thing, and we know that in Vertigo, which was filmed, of course, in San Francisco, we have characters called Madeline and Judy. So that's what James was doing in San Francisco, looking for Judy.
And Ferguson. James Stewart's name is Ferguson in that.
Yeah, I read that. On. There was a blurb that popped up on Facebook. I did read that. Yeah, that there was a lot of references from that to Twin Peaks.
But I think that, you know, the thing I was saying before I got my computer just stopped. You know, I think that James
badmouth technology.
Yeah.
It was. I think that James Hurley is like an integral character in Twin Peaks, or at least he was intended to be right from the start. And you know, and he had that kind of innocence despite all of his dysfunctional family, etc. And I just think there's a huge potential for his character to come back and be changed, perhaps. But well, that's really all I was thinking, really. And I think, you know,
well, thanks.
It's kind of
that's unique
to end on, but you know.
But I really do like that image you came up with, where, you know, James Hurley as a sort of Ben from Blue Velvet character dressed up and singing in that way. That's a beautiful image.
I'm not sure.
Go ahead, James.
Well, because I do sing the one song, and I sing super, super, super high.
Right.
Remember?
See?
Oh yeah.
I think it all fits. It all actually could go that way.
I think James here on this podcast wants to conclude it with a duet, actually. So that was you singing then.
Oh yeah, that's like you couldn't have sang off key like that on purpose.
Oh, it's a good song. It is almost.
Say that again.
It is a good song. It's a Dean Stockwell moment in Twin Peaks, and I think it's one of the most memorable moments in the show, really. You know.
Well, honestly, what's great about it is the suspense, because the first time you see it, you think we are literally taking time out in the second episode of season 2 for this musical number, you know, and then all of a sudden, once the Bob scene happens, you kind of go, wow, this has been building up to that moment, you know, so it's kind of great.
Yeah.
But I think the first time you see it, you're a little thrown, like, wow, you know.
Well, it's like, what the hell's going on? But I mean, isn't what the hell's going on that's a good moment in Twin Peaks.
Yes.
That's like, okay, you know, that's Twin Peaks. What, you know,
Yeah.
if the what the hell's going on moments are few and far between, then like in the second season, you know,
Well, I
it
think
just starts to get, you know,
we've talked about
like,
it.
Okay.
Yeah, we've talked about on this podcast that so many people that we've known in our lives almost stopped watching the show in season at the beginning of season 2 when Cooper's on the ground and the guy keeps coming, the butler or the waiter keeps coming in, and it's like, I heard about you, and it goes on for like 10 minutes straight. And I've known so many like parents that were just like, we thought this was a nice mystery. What's going on? We're so confused.
Yeah.
And that's when like the real fans said, I'm staying with this show. This is great.
Yeah, exactly. Ones who get it.
Exactly. I think, and what's really interesting is that obviously, I mean, the Twin Peaks community is amazing. There's so many great people, but we also, we're not asking you to name anybody, but we've also had to deal with some really interesting, questionable people too. And I think that the problem is, I think Twin Peaks, like a lot of David Lynch's work, taps so much into the psyche of so many different types of people that, you know, I think it sometimes can bring out some interesting aspects of the human nature, you know?
Yeah, I mean, we forget how, like, odd life is and how trippy it is sometimes. We, like, you know, think about certain things, and sometimes you get it, sometimes right in your face, and you're like, God, life is so fucking weird. You know, who'd have thought there's no movies about this, you know? But then most of the time, we're just kind of going along, and if you were to film what we're doing, a lot of it is, I mean, you know, I've said this like a lot as a kid. I used to always say this, but Jennifer says this a lot. I was like, Jennifer, you're saying my line all the time or whatever. Jennifer Lynch, like at the Twin Peaks festivals and stuff, when we're hanging out sometimes, she'd be saying things like, you know, the weirdest thing is people don't remember that we're on a ball spinning in the middle of space. We're on a ball spinning in, you know, I used to always say that as a kid. And like, you look around and you take school so serious, we take our everything so, you know, and I'm like, we're like bacteria somewhere, you know. We're like on a ball in the middle of space spinning. And if you think about that and just the simplicity of that, it can terrify you if you're having anxiety. It can cause like a existential angst, but it can also cause you to seriously see some serious beauty going on and some serious trippy weird shit going on. I mean, if you really meditate on that, because it's like, you know, real life is fucking amazing. It is like, it's the Wizard of Oz for real. If you really want to, you know, don't freak out, but look now, you're really alive. You know what I mean? And you're really, so things like that really do happen, you know? Like, you know, somebody coming in and, you know, like when Cooper was, like you said, when he was on the ground, the guy keeps coming back in. Things go on, and it's just like, it becomes humorous, but it's very poetic, you know? It becomes humorous, but it's also sad as hell, which makes it funnier that it's sad as hell, but then it gets sad again. It's like, you know, and there's certain types of like writers and directors, and there's certain types of people that really can pull this kind of crap off. And, you know, it would really be nice to see all of this stuff go. It really would, you know, even if I was only in it for 5 seconds and just to be a part of it and watch it again and everything, it really would be kind of cool, you know.
Just to see you on your Segway going past the falls, and, you know, would be incredible. But yeah, you're talking about the sad moments. There's that, you know, obviously amazing scene where Madeline is killed, but at the same time it's showing the roadhouse, and you're sitting in the booth with Donna, and the entire mood of the scene becomes completely sad, even though nobody knows what has happened to Maddie. That's just, I think that probably was the longest 15 minutes of television I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just, I there's a lot of people that give the character James Hurley a lot of crap, but I think you are great. I think the character is great. I've always loved your performance in the show. So, seriously, I want to thank
Thanks.
you.
I was going to interrupt, sorry, but I agree on some levels, even with some of the. I'm not saying the character was cruddy, but I'm just saying I understand why people got frustrated, and I understand why. You know what I mean? I understand why they pick certain characters and just kind of like, ugh, why would they? But thank you for saying that.
Yeah, I never understood that actually. Growing up in Holland, this is Dirk talking again, obviously. I guess the perception of James was different at the time. I didn't notice that, and then I moved to the U.S. and many years later, I didn't think I had friends that were into Twin Peaks, and then suddenly I realized I do, and we started talking about it, and I learned that there are a number of people out there who totally don't care for the James character, and that was mind blowing to me, because to me it was somebody I actually looked up to, despite maybe his shitty treatment of women, and lying to them, but there he was with the shades and a motorcycle, so that just really resonated with me a great deal.
Cool.
And
thanks.
Yeah, he was cool. That's the word. He was cool in a way that Bobby Briggs, who wanted to be cool, could never be cool. And even though everybody thought he was the shit, to me it was James.
And that's why I think Bobby got so jealous, because he was, in a way, looking back, he's kind of like a poser, and James is just cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks. After all the hate stuff, that's nice to hear.
And that's nothing against Dana Ashbrook. I think he plays the part perfectly.
Yeah, no, I thought he did great, man. I mean, the whole part where where he gets where he breaks down and everything with his dad, I thought that was all so cool. How it all, how he's just like,
oh yeah,
and he was very vulnerable with Shelley. I mean, he was very it was very touching sometimes. Like you realize this kind of dickhead hard ass really isn't that all the way. But you're kind of like, oh.
Yeah, but like Dirk's saying about him being a little weasel, it's like, once he has Shelley and they're home taking care of Leo and she's having to quit her job and do all that stuff, what does he do? He tries to get a job at Ben Horn, and then for one scene in the entire show, he hits on Audrey. Now that he has Shelley at the house, he's bored with her now.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think it's interesting when you see Fire Walk With Me, Bobby has the guts, quote unquote guts, to confront Laura on the grass, be like, who are you with? But he obviously could have found you, but he had to take it out on Laura because he knew he couldn't take you in a fight.
Well, yeah, or just, yeah, exactly. It was more like, yeah, exactly. It was like, what, it was more the little kid. It was like how we all get. It's the little kid upset that he got hurt, Yeah. So, yeah. Why he's bitching and moaning instead of getting up, and what would kicking my ass do anyway? What good would it do? So
and also in the funeral scene, it is your character that first charges Bobby, not him, towards you. So you have the initiative there. It's quite cool.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think I don't know. I think they both were. I agree with what you guys said earlier. I would have liked to have seen more going on with them, and the Bookhouse Boys, and I would have liked to have seen Donna together, stay together. But
But I'm glad it's realistic too. I mean, at least it's not like at the end of the show, you and Bobby are hanging out as friends in the diner. It's
Thank you. No, keep it real. Yeah, no, have them be fighting and shit, but just more going, little more going on.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly. Well, James, Mr. Woolley here. Do you have any last things to say to Jay before we get off the podcast?
Just thank you for talking with us all very much, and I'll leave it at that. Really, I just wanted to say, we'll carry on talking about the adventures of James Hurley and speculating until we can talk about something that's actually happening.
Well, no, seriously.
Now it's funny. The one thing you said a while ago about, I forgot when I read it or whatever. You had James going to. You had David. It was pretty cool too. You had David Lynch decides he wants to say screw it to everything and shoots James on his motorcycle going from state to state or something.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that's the movie, man. I like that series. Oh yeah.
Well, have you heard Mr. Woolley's dream scene of you launching into the Black Lodge in your bike using Toad as a ramp, and you jump in there to save Agent Cooper? We think that's how season 2 should have ended.
At that point,
on that bike, it'd be like a. Go ahead. Sorry.
At that point, a third peak would actually erupt, and there will be volcanic lava coming out of it, with Michael J. Anderson coming flying out of it, saying "Let's rock."
With cream corn.
Well, I don't know. I just think this is, we've got to do a state by state Odyssey, though. This is a better idea, probably.
I'd watch it.
Meeting people along the way, and he ends up in Twin Peaks, basically.
Yeah, it's like David Lynch and James do pickers on a bike.
Yeah, and film it digitally, and there'd be no budget problems, hopefully. So
well, you'll always have a home on this YouTube channel, James.
All right, thank you. But thank you guys a lot too. It's kind of it's neat watching all this going on. So
yeah, Dirk, do you have any last things you want to say?
If I had one question, you don't have to answer this. It's a stupid question anyway. But I like to ask people in interviews, what is the one question that you're never asked in interviews, but you want to be asked in interviews, if you have such a question?
Like something you're asking me, is there something I'd like to brag about in there?
No, it doesn't have to be brag about, but it could be.
What question? What?
Is there anything
really.
If you get frustrated about that nobody asked you about, anything, and then
for example, I could.
Stuff.
Go ahead.
I was going to say there's tons of stuff, but that's the thing. I wouldn't want to do it in a public forum. I'd love to be asked certain questions by certain people in a meeting to try to get something done or something. But in a public forum, as soon as I start, getting self-righteous and talking about all my opinions, half the time, you just, they're subject to change, so that in the future people don't know they changed, and there it is online when they look me up. And I don't even feel that way anymore. But all of a sudden, James is a self-righteous asshole talking about how we really need to rally behind this kind of, idea or whatever, and not, no, I don't know. Asking just in this kind of thing, I would say probably not really too much. I mean, I like different subjects. Like if you want to talk about different topics, there's other shit that interests me and stuff. But no, there's nothing I really want to come right out and say, other than, we are on a ball spinning in the middle of space. That should do it.
See, that's what I mean. That's awesome. I could, for example, just totally imagine you if I were you, and you don't have to agree with me because somebody might get pissed off, but I would get so tired of being asked about Evelyn,
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So Dirk, I'm gonna one up you. Jay, what is your stance on the comic book movie scene here? Do you, are you into this, or do you get frustrated that Hollywood just seems to be churning out superhero movie after superhero movie?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
I don't mind it. I don't see a lot of the movies anyway, but I don't mind it. I'm not that into the superhero stuff. So, there's a lot of actors getting really, muscled out for everything, so, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. If they're good, they're good. If it's a good movie, it's a good movie. It's a funny thing though. I haven't been really watching a lot of movies unless somebody suggests something to me and says, hey, there's this really good, you got to see it. I don't, I kind of just don't go to just everything that comes out. I'm not a big movie person that way. I do feel that a lot of it is some of it's fun as hell and it's entertaining. Like once I see something and I'm like, wow, you can see why everybody be into this. But honestly, a lot of stuff gives me a freaking headache. It sounds like I'm an old dude, but it's just all the digital CGI stuff. I'm watching it and I'm just like, geez, okay. Because I could see through it. I'm like, oh, that's a great that's great how they did that CGI. It's beautiful, but I know I'm watching it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like, even when it's done beautifully, I'm like questioning right there, okay, is that like something, because that was way too hairy. It looked really real, but that wasn't real, was it? You know? And my mind starts going like that. So rather than, big action like that, I kind of like, I don't really go to a lot unless it's extraordinarily good or whatever. But
so what are your guilty pleasures? I mean, are you like a Food Network watcher? Do you watch like Fixer Upper house shows, or what do you watch to relax?
Honestly, I don't really watch anything. I'll like look stuff up on YouTube. I don't turn on the TV anymore. I really don't. And it's not like a snobby thing. I don't talk about it generally. I really don't. I found myself feeling like crap after I just watched an hour of TV, and I found that when I sat down to watch TV, if I had an hour to do it, I wouldn't get up for 2 hours. Like, it would always go over an hour, and it would be like, what am I doing? I'm just sitting here going, watching the dumbest shit, and it's zoning me out. And I'm like, and then afterwards, I feel like shit. And afterwards, the day feels different. I feel different. It takes a couple hours to pull out it. I just don't. The whole vibe of it, I don't like. So I like more like pulling stuff up on YouTube and stuff, and watching snippets of different things, and you know, that kind of stuff. And every once in a while, I'll watch a movie or whatever, or if there's a cool series or something. But just to kick it and relax, one of my indulgences is like I'll play guitar for hours. I love playing guitar. So my thing to relax and my thing to make myself cool is, I'll play guitar for, sometimes an hour a night, sometimes 4 hours a night, depending on the inspiration level, and I'll record some stuff or I won't, and that kind of thing. And that's more like what I'm into.
Well, I hope you release some of your songs someday. That'd be fantastic.
Well, I got one thing going on right now, with somebody that it's an actual, whatever. I mean, other people have heard them and have gone, you got to put that out, and da-da-da. But, they could also be being nice or whatever. I'm not sure all the way, how stupid they might be, but sometimes you just got to put it out or whatever. So, there's two of them. There's two actual songs that I'm finishing. So I'm going to attempt to do something with them for the first time, because I've never thought anything was like really too good enough, to put it out. But I'm going to start doing it. I'm going to start actually putting it up and out. I think I'm pretty sure this year. So I have a guy working with me on it who is been just really, really good with his time and stuff, because lately you got to drive in LA luckily he just lives very close, so I can just pop over and we work together and stuff. So hopefully that'll be done in the next few months and be able to put out. So we'll just see what happens with that. But that's my favorite thing. I just love sitting and playing guitar. So.
Well, we wish you the best and everything, and we're so honored that you've actually seen our podcast, considering that you don't watch a lot of television, and our podcasts seem to go on and on and on for like hours sometimes. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, no. I was like, I've been watching like all this stuff for a while. Even some of the awful things people have said about me are funny as hell after a while. Because you just go, he's in it. He wants to do what to my face? Like kick my head in and do all this.
Well,
for what? Because his hair was puffy. Oh, okay.
Well, we used to put up pictures of James Hurley, and James, what would be some of the comments we would get on those pictures?
We don't got to redig those painful.
But we couldn't believe the hatred for the character. I was just like, what are you talking about? It's like it was unbelievable.
Well, I think part of it. Go ahead. Sorry.
It's just trolls. They're just there's a tendency.
That's what I was going to say. Part of it, I think, is people. There are people who couldn't stand character and the way I played him as an actor too. Partly that may be there. Look, it's the type of thing where, in my opinion, that's where, for me, and maybe it's a fault as an actor or a weakness as an actor, but for me, it really needed David and Mark to be involved, highly involved, for my character, because it had the kind of sensitivity and sensibility where it was like, it needed that, without it turning into a self-piteous looking thing, or without it turning into, it always had this balance, because it was a complex. And it was I will say, because each character had their uniqueness, my character, it felt, had for my uniqueness on the show, it was for me. If you were to describe Kyle's uniqueness, it was, would you say quirky, obsessive, and charming, and Gary Cooper, right, or whatever. And then for others, you'd say the same thing for their stuff. And for my character, it was more like, for me, if I was looking at the page when it was written, I'd say, oh, this guy his heart is on his sleeve. Like, this guy is as real as he can be, even though, like, yeah, he's got black hair and he's doing all this, whatever. He's as real to himself as, like, he is an innocent. He's very innocent, and he's in other words, his heart is still okay inside. He's still, his door to God has not been perverted yet. So that when all that stuff happened, that's what the betrayal was to my character, that it did get perverted, which didn't make sense it went against what the character was written as, which when that happened and David's not involved, and David is like, to me in Fire Walk With Me, for instance, or the pilot or the third episode, the episodes that David directed was was where I feel I can watch myself. Like I can watch the show, and when I come on, I'm okay with it. I'm not, I still go, oh, I could have done that there or whatever, but I'm all right with it. When I watch all the other episodes, I cringe. I mean, I hate to say it, but I mean, on not just my character, on a couple, not all the others, but a couple of the others, I kind of go, ugh, oh God, David needed to be there, or somebody needed to be, And with my character, I do the same thing, and it's like James is. In the pilot, just because he's heavy doesn't mean he's heavy in every scene. Every scene started to get written like, it's heavy. Would you want to spend time in the room with these people? I mean, come on. No, stop writing the same heavy, depressive scene again where he's longing for something and he's about to break down. Move on. Let him laugh for a minute. You know what I mean? Give it some dynamics,
I agree.
And it couldn't really, and it never made it out of that. So it became stale and hard to watch. I had a hard time watching it without going, Jesus Christ, turn these people off. You know what I mean?
But I also think that one of the reasons why that wasn't so noticeable, at least for me, in terms of James's character, is because this is all supposed to be one day after another, and I thought, well, after, 2 weeks into this, you would still be, melancholy or upset and frustrated about stuff. So
thank you. No, you would be, but you'd also be showing there'd be different stuff going on, and you definitely wouldn't lose the melancholy. You definitely wouldn't lose the guilt and all the stuff that they were going through, And it's like, you did though. As soon as you're with Evelyn, the guilt's gone and the melancholy's gone, and it doesn't feel right, And I don't put down, again, heard the actress, and I just went with the storyline, and it actually that was all for what it was as part of scenes. It was well-written scenes. It was, and the actors in it were really good and really fun to work with and stuff. And it, it had nothing to do with them. It was just this, the story.
It was Diane Keaton's fault. I'm kidding.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
No, I totally blame Diane Keaton for everything. But anyway. But I do think it's important for you to know that what we said about character and your performance on the show was...
You guys, just to say something here, do you hear that? His voice is breaking up.
We do.
My phone.
Dirk, you're...
Is that... Okay, let me see if
Dirk is suddenly on the dark side.
No, Dirk sounds like he's like that character.
I have found my true power.
Yeah.
How is it now?
Perfect.
Okay, because I unplugged it and replugged it in again.
Perfect.
Okay, cool. So I'm sorry I turned into Darth Vader or whatever evil bullshit.
No, you sounded
I do wear currently. You can't see this, James, but I do wear a Captain Howdy shirt. From The Exorcist.
Oh God! Don't do that to me. That movie made me ill. Ugh.
It is a scary movie. Yeah, it's the one movie that really got under my skin.
Yeah, me too.
but I do respect it. But anyway, I don't want to go on a tangent with that. I don't know how much you heard of what I said earlier, but I think it's important that that what we said about your character and your performance on it from us was genuine. We're not kissing your ass because you happen to be in the show with us.
Thank you.
It is something that we genuinely feel, and you can backtrack because I think I've made previous statements about it that.
Well, I guess my last question for you, Jay, is. Before the pilot, or obviously, James Hurley did not exist. So what did Mark and David tell you to get you not only to play the character the way they see it, but to get you in the mind state of James Hurley? Was it just the script, or did they kind of have to kind of put you in that world, and or was it just being up in Snoqualmie that just ended up taking over? Did you?
I think it was the script and being up there. I think it was already on the page. It was so beautifully written, and I think when you're up there amongst all that like lush, incredible beauty and stuff, which is the setting, you're in the actual place where it is. It just becomes, if you allow it, if you become available to it, it becomes really, really neat to do stuff in.
Yeah, thank God the pilot was shot up there, because if the pilot was shot in Los Angeles, it would have had a totally different feel. I think that you guys being up there together and bonding, and knowing actually the time and place you guys were supposedly living in, I think that helped inform your characters for the rest of the show. So
yeah, thank goodness. Exactly, thank goodness they did it up there, because it established it all. It established everything.
Right. So, well, again, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it, and anytime you want to come back on, we're happy to have you. Cool.
Thank you guys a lot. It was good meeting you all. So cool.
All right, take it easy, and to all
See
you
you
guys
in San Francisco.
Thank you all for watching, and we will see you next time. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, James. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.